Yeah, I think
and
we
move
might
this
have to
together.
ditch the table.
It's a wrap on the table.
Maybe let's just take a moment to just have a couple of breaths as well, all of us.
Yes. Oh, crossing this way. And I turn around and I gotta cross back this way.
I mean, even this would be hilarious.
Here are some organic moments for our opening. Hey guys, this is our third episode of Actors Nerding Out Loud. We're going to slightly change the format today. We're only going to do one film, but we are going to be looking at it for a little bit longer. So just another 5 minutes of content there. Do you want to introduce our film?
Yes. So today we're going to look at the film 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. This was most recently up for an Oscar nom for Best Movie. Sam Mendes, you might also remember from directing, he's the director of American Beauty, Revolutionary Road, and the James Bond movie Skyfall, just to give some context of that.
Loved Skyfall.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 1917. Set towards the end of World War I, 1917 follows two lance corporals as they seek to cross the front line, the now apparently deserted front line, on their way to complete a special mission. Unless these two lance corporals can deliver a countermand in time, 1,600 English soldiers will die, one of whom is actually the brother of one of the two main characters. Through the use of Roger Deakins' seemingly long continuous shots, the film, and Thomas Newman's portentous score, the film attempts to create a sense of epic narrative as we follow this race against the clock story.
Great. So what do you guys think?
Thoughts?
What was the word you used? Portentous score, did you say?
Yes, I did indeed.
Portentous score. And what was the adjective you used for the cinematography?
Well, I said that through the use of the cinematography, the long continuous shots,
Yes.
there was an attempt to create epic narrative.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think the fact that it was focused on just these two characters actually lent itself more towards that as well. You know, even though it's, you know, the characters were on a smaller scale. The landscape as well, I think, really added to that. Like the cinematographer really making a character of the landscape.
100%, yeah.
And how epic that landscape is.
Totally.
Like, wow.
Yes, it was an epic film for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like going out on a limb here, sort of similar to the way we have spoken about the Joker, I felt this movie was a little bit of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So yes, you know, it was such an incredibly effective trick, using those seemingly continuous long shots and the attention to detail in costuming and creating the trenches and no man's land, and the music that was underscoring everything was really wonderful, but I sort of found the movie devoid of any real substance.
Yeah, I kind of felt a bit like it was like a very, very good diorama. You know, it was almost a perfect diorama. And I give so much credit to Roger Deakins and Sam Mendes for the breadth of their scope of the way they wanted to capture war in this single take, and how much moments did feel like, you know, incredibly tense, and you were right there with the soldiers. You really experienced that kind of the goal that they had. You were really going along the goal with them. But in the end, I felt like it was a kind of rise and fall experience for me, that because of the beauty of it, there was long periods of time that there was no tension. When there were supposed to be dramatic scenes, I felt those dramatic scenes, as in not like action scenes trying to get somewhere, I felt those dramatic scenes didn't have a place in the film when it was just two actors acting with one another. And I thought about this for a moment. I was like, well, no wonder the acting lost a little bit of its goo because, like, you know, you're at the end of an 16-minute take, and then the camera ends up on you, and you have to do a scene. And if you ruin that scene, if you flub a line or something like that, that's it's like a $1 million reset.
Yeah,
you know.
Been a lot of
and I think
pressure.
that pressure took a little bit of the authenticity out of the performances, and therefore that kind of distanced me a little bit from it.
I think the characters, the realization of the characters suffered a little bit because of it.
Yes.
Because so much time was devoted to exploring the landscapes that they were in, these tracking shots, you know, following people as they move. We only actually got to hear the characters interact in really quite surface level ways. You know, they share a funny story, and we're supposed to recognize that signpost as being they are now friends.
Oh, and that's do you know
what I mean?
Well, I actually kind of got that they were already friends. I kind of got that sense a little bit. Because
except they didn't seem to know that much about each other.
Well, this is
where this is what I'm talking about in terms of the problems in terms of really settling into this story. There were just inconsistencies or just not bothering to deal with things. Like, what were the histories of these two boys? Like,
see, I actually didn't like, you know, in terms of the you know, a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. Like, I agree to a certain extent, but that's part of the reason why I enjoyed this film, because it felt like I was just getting a little snapshot, and there wasn't any, you know. I felt more. I appreciated the smallness of a story in a way, even though it was epic, because it was drawn down to those two characters, and it did feel like I was just getting a snapshot. I didn't learn too much about either of them, but I kind of enjoyed that in a way.
I agree with you. But I think that the scope didn't need to flesh out their backstories or anything. But I do feel like there was a rigidity to the performances that meant that I wasn't able to fully relax into connecting to the characters. And so, for example, when that scene happened that you're talking about, when they, and I won't give any spoilers away about what actually does end up happening, but as soon as the scene happened where they started to meet and talk about each other, I was like, something bad's about to happen.
Yeah.
I felt like I could hear the script leading me down. Get to know these characters now, guys, because we're about to do something. And in general, that's where it kind of fell away for me, is that, like, you know, like, for example, Best Picture, Best Cinematography for the Oscars, I think great that it was up for those awards. But the fact that this script was alongside Little Women or Parasite as a best screenplay, you know, that was difficult for me, because I felt like the dialogue was pretty vapid. There was not a whole lot going on.
It really did feel. I found it to feel quite tokenistic in terms of its signposting of, you know, oh, this character has won a war medal but doesn't care about it and just, like, has, you know, lost it in a game of dice. Right, there, we understand now this character is anti-war. This guy is anti the war, whereas this other character is you're more kind of idealistic.
Excited about the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just found those things to be too signposted for me to really believe that I'm watching two real people on screen.
Yes, despite the fact that I did feel there were elements in this film that were cliched, I did really fall in love with the cinematography. It was exquisite to watch, especially, not giving too much away, I don't think, but the scene with the flowers while he's in the water, that was breathtaking.
Yes.
I was just transported by the sensibility of that shot. Was just incredible.
And I am with you 100% that there were several moments where I was... My breath was taken away by Roger Deakins' cinematography, working with Sam Mendes in telling this story. But I think that's where it was slightly jarring for me, is that... And again, this is a gentle note, because, you know, we know that Sam Mendes wrote this as a kind of ode to his grandfather, who was in World War I, and, like, his heart was obviously in it, right? The director's heart was obviously in it. He obviously wanted to make a beautiful film. But for me and my taste, and this is just my taste, that lack of grittiness that beauty over substance meant that I was checked out for parts of it. There was times when the tension and the kind of stakes and the single shot perfectly aligned, and I was like, you know, especially in the opening scenes when they first cross into no man's land, and you're like, what's going on?
So
Are they
cool.
going to get hurt? But then as soon as it started to open into those shots, like for me, one of the ones was the flaming church, you know, and you're seeing the shadows of these people moving towards this giant flaming church, and it was like breathtaking. But that scene then went on for, you know, 20 minutes, and I felt very little dramatic tension within it, you know? So it kind of kept on being these moments of me intellectually being like, that's nice, that's beautiful, that's nice. Again, rather than being like in the thing.
Completely in it.
Yes.
But then again, my taste often in these things is if it had been handheld, if it had been right in there, if you had been, you know, right down with the soldiers, even the incredible dioramic extras seemed a little unworn because you could tell it was this perfect, they were all in their perfect positions choreographing the take. Whereas I want to see like, you know what I mean? And that was just like, I was like, where's the reality of war here? But I honestly understand that Sam was working from a scope of almost nostalgia, I guess, and that's probably not the right word to use because you're not nostalgic for a war, but...
I would agree with that. I feel like there is a sort of epic or grand sense of patriotism.
Respect almost, you know?
Yeah,
like...
that he was calling back to... and I totally respect that. I just felt that the style of it, in achieving the style of it, it came at the cost of really being able to spend time getting to fall in love and be fully invested with these human beings on stage, on screen.
And I you know, what you're saying about the one shot, for me, it did create tension as well, because I think that is the danger of, you know, the fact that this film was composed of only a few, well, I don't know.
The longest shot was only 9 minutes.
Okay, so it composed of like
cleverly put together.
a bunch of cleverly
edited
put together
like a dream.
One shots. But the fact that it was, you know, that was almost a part of its marketing.
Yeah.
It did create tension for me watching it because it became more about the style rather than the substance.
Exactly.
And like for me, one of the moments where I actually felt it physically as an actor, I know that some people wouldn't feel it as much, but as an actor, in the first, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes when they're walking down
the trenches
behind each other and it kind of switches and stuff, there's actually moments where the actor behind, the actor in front is like slightly leaning his head, and I could tell he's trying to make it look like he's kind of just thinking about what's being said, but he's leaning the way that the actor behind can be seen more. And that for me was like, I'm so in the technicalities of the making of this film right
That's
now.
an incredible note now.
And so I do think that is the danger of saying, look at what we've done technically with the making of this film. Look at all these one shots.
But you know,
can I quickly just say that what I do find interesting though was having listened to Sam Mendes speak on this idea of doing the one shot was his interest in exploring the idea of our first person perspective. So we basically live our lives in a single shot. Do you know what I mean? Like our eyes are what the camera sees. There's no editing involved. We live our lives in a one long take. And yet our movies these days filled with like highly sophisticated edits where it's like here and then down here and it's jittery all over the place. And, you know, so I completely understand the desire to be like, whoa, I want to try and do something that tells a powerful story, utilizing the feeling of it's just you know, with your eyes on this continuous journey.
But I feel like I actually begrudgingly disagree that that's how we live our lives. We don't live our lives in a single take. We actually are more akin to choppy edits because our brains are filled with anxiety and missing points, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm drifting off into my mind and then I'm coming back out to you and then I'm thinking of a thought, you know?
Sure.
Sam, trying to tell me that what I'm saying isn't important enough to stay with me.
Sorry, what did you say? You know, and I think that's like, it's a beautiful way to look at the world that we are in it and watching it and with it. But the thing with the realities of war is that your attention is getting chop, and then you're over here, and then you're over there, and because of the technicality of it, it was all it was like
smooth.
it was ballet. Do you know what I mean? It was like a ballet of the camera, and so like to me, that's not a personal perspective. That's actually a technical masterpiece.
Yeah.
But not a emotional masterpiece.
Yes. So
can I just reference another film?
Yes.
Sorry,
No,
a film that has done the absolute opposite to me, not in a war zone, but in capturing a emotional aesthetic through film, was Uncut Gems. Please watch Uncut Gems. In terms of the Sadfi brothers really made you feel 150% physically like the main character. To the point where you were viscerally experiencing his emotional character journey. That's what I wanted in this film, and I thought in the first couple of frames I might get it, and then when it didn't pay off in the end for me, I was a little heartbroken. Yeah.
But what it lost in my ability to really be emotionally connected with the characters. It did succeed occasionally in moments of incredible tension.
Oh yeah,
yes, I was on the edge of my seat for
absolutely.
a good portion of it.
For a good portion of it, and that is all down to the camera work and the choreography of the movement. And from that one person perspective, it's almost as much about what the camera isn't seeing as about what it is seeing. So,
totally.
Where are the enemy soldiers?
Yeah.
What could be just out of view because we feel like the camera is just one set of eyes kind of roving. And I did feel absolutely on edge, throughout a lot of that.
Crossing the bridge, the water. There was a scene with crossing the bridge, and you don't know where a specific shooter is coming from.
Totally.
Totally. That again, beautiful note. Like you don't know what's off camera. That definitely captured the first person perspective.
Yes.
And I did actually really appreciate the exploration of how quickly one can be alone. The moments where they were in the trenches and there's thousands of people, and then all of a sudden they're by themselves.
Totally, yeah.
Yes.
A random truck full of troops comes in going on another mission. All of a sudden they leave, and then
you're alone again.
Yeah.
So I did appreciate that, and bringing more of the acting in. We did speak briefly about it, but I thought I did enjoy George Mackey's.
I loved him.
Oh yeah.
I loved him. I think he was the highlight of the film for me. Yeah.
Very, very contained. Very, very expressive in a. I believed him as
it was a deeply felt performance. I think he really was trying to hold Sam Mendes' view.
Both George Mackey or Mackay, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name as he would, and Dean Charles Chapman made reference to the fact that they were such long takes, that it was actually quite a physically exhaustive process to film these things. So as actors, we know that sometimes exhaustion can be your best friend as an actor, because it means that you actually can't act. So a lot of the stuff that
totally.
All of those close-ups on George Mackay's face where he's just processing because he's so physically
and you could see it when he was in the truck with the rest of them.
Totally.
That was a bit of a fall down for the film, because all the other soldiers seemed so fresh and cheery. And I know that they were supposed to be getting that like soldier banter, but there had to be a certain element of
weary.
You can see the lead actor's weariness, whereas all of the guys, the guest roles, you could see that they were kind of like coming in on a new day of set, and that kind of again it was like a bit of that. But I thought George Mackay brought that weariness just so wonderfully,
well.
and I think to watch his career, how he's grown as an actor is quite, because I first saw him in Captain Fantastic, where I wasn't too crash hot on him, but now he is just
he's really having a moment for sure.
I mean, and speaking of Dean Charles Chapman, props out to him I did feel he was more aware of his performance. I got that sense as an actor, but props out to him, because to go from playing a main character in Game of Thrones to my partner who I watched this with not being when I told her at the end that it was Tommen from Game of Thrones, she was as an avid Game of Thrones fan, she was like, "What, really?" So I think props out to him, because that was a huge series, and
it can be difficult to shift,
to break.
Yes,
and also to respect him as well. I thought he was the best thing about The King as well. I don't know if you've seen that, but he was fantastic in that.
Yes, that was.
He played the brother in The King, and he was very, very good in that.
So
I think we need to wrap that
Yeah.
up.
yeah.
Here,
So
actually, yeah.
what do you guys give it?
So moments of incredible tension captured from the amazing cinematography.
And sound.
Yes, and the sound as well.
Our sound design. We did miss
Sound
the point about
design.
sound design. Yeah.
Yeah, one Oscar for best sound.
Oh,
there you
there you
go.
go. Yeah. Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. But ultimately, I thought it was a great Friday night movie, not necessarily a best Oscar picture movie. So I'm giving it 3 stars.
I am going to give this one 2 stars because cinematic masterpiece, I think, in terms of technicality, sound, camera, but it's just a personal taste thing for me. I really want a cinematic experience to be a story that I am personally invested in, and I didn't find myself personally invested in these characters due to the technical prowess, actually. So 2 stars for me.
I'm giving this 3 chooks out of 5 chooks.
Gets me every time.
Sticking with the chooks, man.
It's great. I love it.
Some of the performance was brilliant. One thing I will say is seeing Richard Madden, I kind of wish that I saw a lot more of him. I just think I have a bit of a crash. But I did think technical masterpiece. Yeah, some cliche moments. So yeah, 3 chooks out of 5 for me.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Like, subscribe, share if you wish. And we'll
See you next time.
So next time, so we're going to be doing 1 movie a week.
That's right. From here on in.
So look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.